Welcome everyone to the Moisky News for March the 6th, 2020. Today we are going to be discussing negotiations between the EU and the UK. Before that, there is a political recap stream tonight with Trups LP on this channel at 9:30 PM GMT. I haven't set it up yet, but when I do, it will be linked down below. So Michel Barnier, the chief negotiator for the EU, has said that Britain must respect the EU's independence and accept the bloc has its own red lines in trade talks. That's interesting, because we had red lines too, but you didn't respect any of those, did you? That's interesting. Is it because they came from a whammon, or because they were a bit unreasonable? It's hard to tell, because you guys seem to think you guys supersede everything else, which I find to be quite unique. This particular statement came from a speech in Brussels at the close of the first round of Brexit trade negotiations, where Michel Barnier warned that it would be very difficult because of differences that were emerging between both sides and with the clock being quite, well, close. He also said, let's avoid any misunderstandings. The UK has spent a lot of time this week insisting on its independence. Ladies and gentlemen, nobody contests the UK's independence. We also ask the UK to respect our own independence. Of course, we respect the UK's sovereignty, and just as the UK set its own conditions for opening up its market, the EU sets its own conditions for opening up its markets for goods and services. The real question is not about our reciprocal independence. The real question is what we do with our respective independence. Our common challenge now is as two independent entities to agree together on ground rules that makes it possible for us to cooperate, to trade and to travel. I'm not sure where I'm getting this inkling that I've heard something eerily similar before.
We are the Borg.
I really can't place it, but if anyone else can work it out, please do let me know down in the comments below. Whilst giving a review of the first week's talks, Michel Barnier said the UK was refusing to sign a commitment to stay in the European Convention on Human Rights, as well as rejecting an agreement tying it to the high standards for labour, environmental and state aid regulations. When it comes to human rights, I had initially thought we were part of that, but I didn't believe it was part of the EU. My mistake. Since we are rejecting it, I would like to believe we are going to put something in place that is as good as it, or better. But we can debate whether or not the Conservatives would actually do that in the comments down below. As far as standards for labour go, if we're talking work time directive and of course employment rights, I tend to think we should be in some alignment. The EU does have some pretty good standards. The UK believes it is doing better than the EU when it comes to environmental, so I'm not entirely sure if we want to agree to their environmental standards when their environmental standards, especially when it comes to agriculture, is damaging our own ecology. And for state aid, Yeah. There are a lot of people in the United Kingdom who aren't overly fond of constantly bailing out other countries. They're not fond of it. Those voters voted in droves for Boris. Those types of voters anyway. Michel Barnier also expressed a desire for a level playing field for regulations, believing that the UK should want to maintain high standards, but they're not willing to legally commit to them, which is why he is questioning the trust of the United Kingdom and their negotiators, because they're not willing to work with them on this issue. Now, there are involved in this, negotiations that is, 200 to 300 officials, and it should be noted because of the pandemic that is terrifying everyone to putting paper and plastic bags over their heads, natural selection, I know, it is possible some of those could be affected. When Michel Barnier was asked if this could affect the outcome or the negotiations at all, he said he didn't want to commit to anything, and there's no ban on meetings. At most, there are 200 people in one room. That's a lot of people in one room. A senior EU official involved in negotiations has downplayed the suggestion as well that there would be an effect, probably because they're not as panicky as, well, let's say, a large swath of British people who, on Question Time last night, said that I couldn't get toilet roll because people panic bought it. You panic bought loo roll? Why? Now you're forcing the peasantry to get one ply. And you know what that means? That's right. No one's washing their hands, because there's no point. They're going to cut them off instead. With this and everything else I ever discuss on this channel, I'm very much interested to know what you think. so please do let me know in the comments down below.